All right, welcome into another edition of the Ryan and Goodman podcast. I'm Jeff Goodman. He's Bob Ryan. And Bob, neither one of us are in Vegas. We're watching the Summer League. I thought about going, but I got a bunch of stuff coming up with my daughter traveling for her school visits. So I was not going to head to Vegas. And I like the Summer League. I do. You know, for me, it's fun because I get to watch all these kids that I've seen since AAU ball, then in college, now in the Summer League. I just don't put a lot of stock into what happens in the Summer League, Bob.
It can be fool's, you got to be careful. It's almost textbook fool's gold sometimes, and there's so many different dynamics. It's an interesting tool, maybe to judge, but don't get carried away. You know, but the idea. And sometimes it's just beneficial to the young coach that they put in charge of the team as to the players. As usually that's the norm, right? One of the assistants gets to coach. But no, I try not to get carried away. I go back, God, it was far back as the early '80s in LA, going to a couple of games, and I quite frankly, it was hard for me to get into. I don't know, something about it. But that was then. Anyway,
I missed the Boston one. I missed when they had the Boston. Yeah, that was a whole lot easier.
You couldn't ignore it when it was in your backyard. Let's be honest. There's no question. Then I totally agree with that. But anyway, it's part of the deal. And but I just think remember the reason that it's at the level it is now is that it's because TV wants to. They want a little programming. That's all. I mean, like anything. Once again, go back to it used to be follow the money. Now it's follow the TV programming.
I was there. I did sideline a few years ago I thought it was the Summer League that blew up Summer League, which was Lonzo Ball.
Oh,
when he was out there, it was crazy.
Oh yeah. That's a very specific circumstance. Absolutely. Yeah.
It was fun. De'Aaron Fox, Donovan Mitchell were there. Nobody knew how good Donovan was then. Now, so I've had a chance to watch some of these guys, the young guys that I've seen again. A bunch of them. I've seen Cade Cunningham play 100 times. So whatever he does, the big question I have with him is really how he fits right now in Detroit with Killian Hayes. They drafted Killian Hayes last year. He's kind of a point guard.
Yeah.
And you really, to me, the beauty of Cade Cunningham is having the ball in his hands and running things through him. I know a lot of people have said, well, he can play any position you want. You can just plug him in and you can put him at the 3, the 4, the 2. I get all that, Bob. He's best with the ball in his hands. So if Killian Hayes has the ball in his hands, 75% of the time, that means Cade does not. And I think you need to run as much as you can through Cade Cunningham, and ultimately that's going to be the key. He's played well. Has he set the world on fire? No. And again, I think the other beauty of Cade is you're going to look at the box score every game, and it may not tell the whole story of Cade Cunningham. Like, he does a little bit of everything, and his intangibles, to me, Bob, are off the chart. His leadership, his intangibles are something that, again, will not be measured by any numbers in the box score.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that, because I mean, it just reminds people there's so much more to the game than there is, and the dynamics and the old five guys, one ball, but also 5 egos, 5 agenda. I mean, really, it can get very complicated in that regard. Green was in that game, right, last night?
Yeah, the first game, or the second game. I can't remember which one, but yes.
To what degree do you think people are going to making this a matchup either or, right? It's going to be, because there were people. I mean, I'm just in my research for the draft. There were people that were touting Green as much as, or even more, that said, "Well, we might have." People thought he could have been the number one. So I mean, they're going to be paired up, is what I'm going to say.
I mean, the big thing with Jalen Green, obviously, is people just didn't know anything about him.
Right. Well, hey,
right? He was in the G League, and frankly, anybody who goes to the G League, the advantage is clear for college over the G League. It's branding, that part of the advantage. You see Cade Cunningham on 15 times. They're promoting him on ESPN, where Jalen Green and Jonathan Kuminga were anonymous coming into this draft by fans, not by NBA people, by fans. Every GM knew Jalen Green. And in fact, I talked to one GM maybe a week before the draft, who was drafting in the lottery, not at 1 or 2. And they said, listen, if it were me, I know there's pressure to take Cade Cunningham because you know what you're going to get with him. But again, Jalen Green's upside is so high. And you watch him, even in the summer league, Bob, he's so electric athletically. And he's got that confidence, that swagger. He shoots it much better than anybody figured. That's the biggest difference. And I think, again, his gear, just that extra gear that he has to be able to explode to the basket. I heard Mike Schmitz, who I love. He's my favorite. If you're going to follow anybody with the draft, you follow ESPN's Mike Schmitz. He sees everybody. He's everywhere. And he had a comment that I kind of scoffed at, but the more I think about it, he said, like, one day Jalen Green could lead the league in scoring.
So give me, it reminds me of, can you, is there a comparison? Just,
I mean, he's a bigger Donovan Mitchell. Like, he's just, people want to compare him to Zach LaVine.
When you mentioned leading scoring, a name flashed into my head, and I can't say that I know any other comparison of the style to make, but Tracy McGrady.
Yeah, not quite as long.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Better shooter, I think could be, and I never thought I'd say that, but he shot like 37, 38% in a small sample size in the G League bubble, but it was really impressive. And he comes out in the summer league and he's making threes. So I think this kid, and I remember talking to him before the G League bubble started, even back I was in Charleston, and we did a Zoom. I did a Zoom with him in mid-December, and I was really impressed with him. I was really impressed. And then I talked to Brian Shaw about him a lot as well. And he was blown away by, the work ethic, everything. And then I was with Jared Jack. Jared Jack was on that G League Ignite team and loves Jalen Green. Absolute. Off the record, on the record, whatever you're talking, like Jared Jack thinks he's going to be a star as well.
I'm really curious. I got to check him out, because it's a complete blank slate for me, obviously.
I think he'll be rookie of the year because his numbers will be eye popping with a. Now again, Cade will have numbers too in Detroit, but this Houston team, it's so hard to assess a guy on bad teams, right? It's very hard sometimes because you're getting numbers that aren't legitimate a lot of times because you're down 20, 30 points. You're playing against the second unit of the other team. It's interesting. So Cade, Jalen Green, Evan Mobley's been really good.
No.
He's just solid, Bob. Like Evan Mobley to me is just going to be a guy that I think what you're going to get every night for the most part.
Nice. That's very nice.
Yeah. I think he's going to be like Chris Bosh. That's what I think he's going to be. Long, skilled, different in some ways. Bosh became a great shooter from the perimeter, but both long. Mobley, I think, can probably put it on the floor better than Bosh, or will be able to. And he's 7 feet. He'll be able to really affect the game defensively. So those are the guys that I'm trying to think who stood out. Who else has been really good? I mean, obviously, for your Boston Celtics, Aaron Nesmith had a really good game. Pritchard's looked good. Those are guys. But Max Strus goes for 32 for the Heat last night. And, again, you've got to temper the expectations because a lot of these guys are playing against other guys that are overseas players.
Yes.
So, the most interesting thing that I saw, Bob, was on Detroit. You've got Cade Cunningham, the number 1 pick. He's the face of the franchise, everything. And he's playing on the court with Luka Garza. And Luka Garza is just trying to make the Detroit Pistons. And here he was, the best player in college basketball, arguably, for the last 2 years. 2 years. And he's trying to make the team. And here's Cade Cunningham that had a hell of a season last year in college, but he's the future in the franchise. Yeah. Weird.
Yeah, it is. Well, Luka is a throwback player to the most part. He can, we've seen him step out a little bit, but it's not his game. No. He's an old-fashioned. I keep going back to the Al Davis, the Al McGuire designation, the aircraft carrier. He's the old-fashioned school. He'll get a job, don't you think? I mean, he'll get a job.
He's lost about 20, 25 pounds, Bob. So he looks much, much better. And obviously he's trying to show he can be a pick and pop, 5-man. Like, in the not Al Horford, because Al can defend. Luka's biggest issue is going to be defense.
Okay. Yeah. Right. I was going to say Brook Lopez, but that's way down the road.
Yeah. And Brook's game changed a lot over the years.
Oh,
too.
You're kidding? No one. He's Exhibit A, the poster child of the five-man saying, well, it's a new world. I got to change. I mean, I've addressed that topic 100 times with him. Just all I say is, folks, go look at the numbers. Go look at the FGAs and 3 points the first X years in the league, as opposed to what he is now. And it's like it's a sex change. I mean, it's incredible.
So you know what else happened in Vegas? There was a photo that circulated shortly after Jayson Tatum got back from Tokyo and winning his gold medal. Mm-hmm. And the photo was of Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and a guy from Nike, Mike Mayo is his name. He was in the middle of that photo. I don't know if he's still with Nike or not. And they were in a club. Apparently, it looked like they were in a club in Vegas, right? I mean, Jaylen Brown, a lot of players just go to Vegas now. They're working out. They're going out. They're now watching the Summer League, supporting the young players. So there was a photo that showed up, and everybody sent it to me. And it was one of those gotcha moments that everybody sent it to me and said, look, you're wrong. Because what I had said a few months ago on the air of, I think it was EEI, they asked me about Tatum and Jaylen Brown's relationship. And I said, look, they're not best friends. They're not buddies. They're friendly. They like each other. They're not best friends. They don't hang out really off the court. So everybody sent that picture to me. Look, you're wrong. Look, they hang out off the court. I'm like, I'm not saying they never hang out off the court. I'm saying, like, first of all, that's not Jayson Tatum's personality anyway. He's got a kid. He's not going out.
First of all, he's got a family responsibility, and we know that he's bonded with that young man.
Right. That's not him. That's not Jayson Tatum. Not to say he doesn't go out occasionally. He does, but he's not going to be a fixture on the Vegas nightclub scene or in Boston going out to clubs. So I just want to clarify that, number one, that I wasn't saying like these guys don't like each other. I was just saying like they're not boys off the court. They're not like hanging out every night. And there's nothing wrong with that. I was making a point, and I was just really addressing the question. But then I said, and I think you and I have talked about this, like Kevin McHale and Larry Bird, best friends.
I was just going to bring it up.
Right.
Exhibit A for me is they were fine. They weren't enemies. They were. I said they were almost competing little empires. But they had a 100% profound mutual professional respect.
Yes.
No questions about the technique and the style. No. But they were a different personality completely. But they were professional. They were good, respectful teammates. But they weren't buddy either. No, there's not. But they're. If they see each other now, I think they do a little hug. They're fine.
Well, now they're not competitive anymore. Yeah. Like you're looking back on it with a different perspective.
So with regard to this and the idea of their relationship, the important thing is the relationship on the court. And that we have all observed that there appeared to be times when they seemed like they weren't, in sync, at times. And we were both all-stars, but, still not. Okay. And I was in conversation with someone involved with the Olympic program that had a very interesting observation for me about where they are. Remember, he's 23 years old.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine. He and the other guy's 5. So
I don't know if he's 25.
He's 23. Going all right. And he said, it's just so typical of young, talented players is that they begin their careers establishing themselves, establishing what's my game. Yep. How do I fit into the NBA? What can I do to impress people to show them who I am? Blah, 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 blah. Well, and the next stage is once you get comfortable in that is how do I apply this to winning?
Right.
And they're still young. And now it's
24, the time has come. Brown, 24, turns 25 in October.
So the time has come for them they should be there now. And this guy thinks that Tatum is benefited from this association on the team, that watching and listening to Garnett, talk about skill sets, and that the idea the next stage for Tatum is to be more of not a pure facilitator, but a more, I'm aware guy and you saw some nice passes he made.
He's got it in him. He's got it. I've said this forever, Bob.
You saw him hitting cutters.
Yeah.
In the Olympics.
Yep.
And so he thinks he's going to benefit very much from this. The Celtic fans should be excited.
Yeah, I think unfortunately Tatum has been labeled a scorer, and that's kind of what they needed from him so much over the last few years. And now it's that ability to expand your game, right? And he's shown it in spurts. Yeah. But I think you're right. I mean, this Olympic experience hopefully will teach him a little bit more and understand a little bit more. And maybe some of the criticism that came out of last year of them not winning will teach these guys a little bit more of, you know what? Maybe we're okay with where we're at individually right now. We've proven ourselves. We've still got more to go, but we've proven ourselves to whereas now we got to win. Like, we got to work together here and make each other better. And, to me, if they do that, then this team that a lot of people have written off for this season, you still might have, if you've got 2 of the top 20 players in the NBA, you got a chance. You should have a chance to go, to the Eastern Conference Finals, right? Like, how many? Now, Milwaukee's got 3 of the top probably 30 players right now in the NBA, right? You would say between Giannis, Middleton, and Holiday. Right. And so you're missing, that's the one thing you're missing with the Celtics right now is you don't have a third guy right now. And I'm not ready to put Dennis Schröder as a third guy.
No, I'm not looking. No. All right. So we enter into Dennis Schröder, and interesting offseason, or interesting going back to the moment he declined the offer of the 4 years, $84 million from the Lakers, which was offered right before he had a bad shooting finals. Playoffs, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, and now he settles for 1 year, 5.9. That's what it's come to, across 3,000 miles away. Interesting to see where his head is and when he shows up. So, but it's an interesting saga. For sure. But does he improve his situation? Yeah, it's a point guard. You have some, and he certainly he can play defense. We know that. But
he's fast. He can distribute and push the ball. Like, there's a lot to like out of Dennis Schröder. But there's a reason, Bob. There's a reason he came to the Boston Celtics for the mid-level exception at $5.9 million. And I talked to a bunch of people in the league, a couple that have played with him. And the word that I kept getting, Bob, you're not going to want to hear this. The word that kept popping up is selfish.
Oh, boy.
That's the word from teammates, from former teammates, and also executives who have been on his teams that he's played for. Is selfish, difficult to work with, immature. So ultimately, Dennis Schröder has an opportunity here to change the narrative and make a lot of money.
Yeah, right. There's one X factor, and I think it involves Tatum as well.
Yeah.
This new coach.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to say this. And I'm not being hyperbolic, I'm being truthful. And I always like to say we should always be judicious with the use of the words always and never.
Right.
Okay. I literally have 50 years of NBA observation, professional observation. I have never, ever seen a circumstance in which a first-year head coach has entered a job with such universal acclamation. Never.
That's incredible.
Never. Everybody loves this guy, Ime Udoka. All right. I'm not talking about the Celtics. I'm talking about the outside world. And okay, this is wonderful. And by the way, I got a further acclamation for him from another source. All right, fine. I just hope that the fans aren't expecting him to get to the Garden by walking on Charles River en route. You know what I'm saying? I hope that people understand it. All right. But I'm telling you, everybody loves this guy, and the fact that he is an African American with a European tinge, an African,
and he works.
He's got everybody loves this guy. So I don't know what kind of influence how he's going to affect either Tatum or any of the new or Dennis Schröder in this new. He's played for an African American coach. I understand that, but still, I guess he has. I don't know. He's played for 3 teams, but anyway, this is going to be interesting to see what effect he has too in this regard with this guy, because this guy's got obviously a certain obvious skill set, and he's a 14-point career scorer. He's averaged as many as 19 points a game. This shocked me when I looked him up.
Oh yeah, no, he's been productive.
You were throwing this by even the average reasonable NBA observer, and you gave me a profile. I'm going to give you a profile. This is a 28-year-old guard. He was playing X years in the league, and he's averages 14. He's as many as 19 in a game. And I'd like to know how many people would guess Dennis Schröder on the first guess. Not too damn many.
Is he worth the risk? That's the big thing. And ultimately, Bob, here's the deal: is if you're Brad Stevens, you're clearing the deck for next season. So all you're getting are 1-year deals other than Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Robert Williams, and you have Al Horford's $14.5 million guaranteed salary next year, which you can move. So really, you've got 3 players that right now you're saying we are building around. And other than that, we are going to have as much flexibility as we can next season to go get a Bradley Beal. And if you can get a Bradley Beal, then Brad Stevens has done a hell of a job this offseason. But if you end up next year with the same cast of characters and you're bringing in, a mid-level shooter or, maybe you're getting rid of all these point guards and you're bringing in another point guard, a mediocre middle-of-the-road point guard in the NBA, well, then you failed. Like, you've done all this to be able to pair Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown with another top 30 player, maybe a top 10 player if it's Bradley Beal in the NBA. If you don't do that and next year you're in the same situation, then this is a wasted year, Bob.
Granted, but the thing is, they're being honest about it. If people are paying attention, if fans are, I got this question even yesterday. I was at a baseball game, got a question from somebody, about are they going to be any better? I said, probably not. Not too much. We don't know. That's not the point. They're being honest about it. They're not lying to you. They're going with 1-year contracts. They're making it clear. We hope we can make a splash next year.
Right.
And that's it. This year.
But you roll the dice. Okay.
So whatever happens this year happens. That's why I'm looking at it.
Do you worry about the fact that if you're bringing in a team that doesn't do well and they finish 9th, do you get a Tatum, or do you worry about that Tatum or Jaylen Brown are going to say, you know what? We want out? Because salaries don't matter. Contracts don't really matter anymore. If you're a star and you say you want out, you're going to go. Like, you've got the leverage.
All right. No, but we're living in a different, right. We're living in a world of 2021, not in 1981 or 51. And you're right. It's that's something to be concerned. Well, guess what? That's why they're paying Brad Stevens now the quote, the big money. Why they pay Danny the big money? They pay him all. You're willing to take this chance to take on the responsibility, and you have to make decisions. You have to make and they're making a organizational decision about how we're going to proceed. They're putting their faith in Brad that it's all going to work out well. And if it doesn't, well, then they can give him the Ziggy as Dr. Jimmy, our boy Dickie V would say. But it's a risk. But you got to take risks.
I think you're right, because ultimately, if you go through the same blueprint and you're adding the Evan Fourniers and somebody of that ilk, you might move from 7th last year, with a healthy Evan Fournier and some of the other moves they made. Maybe they can crack the top 4, but they're probably not beating, again, Brooklyn or Milwaukee. Or maybe even some of these other teams that have improved over the last year. Right?
Well, the tier, the Atlanta, we call it the Atlanta New York tier now, and also in the East, I think Chicago is going to be knocking on
Indiana, if they're healthy, they're probably better.
A lot of teams in the same level. There's no doubt about it, and they right now they're barely in that level. Based on the performance that we saw last year. So, by the way, they picked up. Dunn, what do you think where he's going to fit?
I don't know if he'll fit at all. And I like Kris. Again, great defender. Just hasn't been able to establish himself. He's a 4th point guard right now. I don't know how he's on the roster.
I know. I was surprised at that, because after all, especially with this.
I mean, you got Smart, you got obviously Schröder, you got Pritchard. There's no room for Kris Dunn on this team, in my opinion. There's no room. I don't think he'll be here when the season starts. I'd be shocked if he's still.
It was just a make the deal work kind of acquisition.
Okay. Yes, I think that's for the most part. The question will be ultimately, what else can you do to bolster the second unit? Or do you just say the hell with it? Again, this is the year we're going to let these guys
back to the summer league. And an individual whose name that you mentioned, and a guy with whom I've been intrigued from the day that they drafted him, and that's Aaron Nesmith.
Right.
And and it is not inconceivable. Now, what people mark the date, I'm making this statement on the 12th of August in 2021. All right. And this is coffee, folks. This is not, bourbon and branch water. Okay. That he could explode and be everything they thought he was going to be as a shooter. Coming out as a 52% 3-point shooter in college, and be that spark off the bench that they thought he could provide, the registered jump shooter. He established himself in a way that we weren't remotely anticipating as a dogged defender and a really hard playing, lovable player.
Yes.
But the fact is that's nice. But what they thought they were getting at that spot in the draft was the best shooter maybe left definitely left and the best shooter in the draft. And we didn't see that. We saw a little, I just have some blind faith that he's going to be a really important cog.
I would feed him to the Wolves. I would say, listen, honestly, if you're not playing for this year and you're playing for the future, why not try to speed up his progress and not, I'd start him. I'd start him, Bob.
Whoa.
I put it, why not? If he can face the court, if you can put him in there with Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Robert Williams, and Smart or Schröder or Pritchard, whatever you're going to do with the point guard spot, it's going to be Smart it's his job to lose, full-time job. Why not go with that? Because we both know Marcus Smart is not the most reliable 3-point shooter. Robert Williams is not a guy that really spaces the court, although he's a much better passer than we all thought. To me, why not have another guy that can give Tatum and Brown space to operate rather than somebody that, Richardson, I think, to me, comes off the bench if you're smart. He bolsters that second unit, really good defender, and can also, score like he's a proven double-digit scorer. I would throw Nesmith in there and say, you know what? You're our guy.
You're our Joe Harris.
And then you got Horford, Richardson. I'm not sure what else you have off the bench.
Grant Langford Langford's to me still. They must love him because they won't give up. You know what I'm saying?
Because he's never been healthy.
Yeah, they love. Right, I had to go back to Indiana, and
and you invested a late lottery pick in him.
But they're not giving up, But meanwhile, there's our guy Grant Williams, and I don't know if there's any room for any ceiling of improvement.
No, Grant's just a good, solid player who if again he's in your second unit, a George Niang type. That if you've got enough around him,
you could see Grant Williams. Some contender,
right?
Contender that needs a ninth man,
right? Jared Dudley, type like
he would be ideal. Yep. I think he's, he's one of my great references. I'll take to my grave with my last words. He was a born Spur. I mean, I think he was a born Spur, and I mean the vintage Spurs, naturally, but that's a type that I've created in my mind. I think he's that kind of guy. So the story hasn't been written yet on him. And it won't end. It probably won't end in Boston. But I just think someone out there who has more smarter and with power that I don't have is going to say, we want him in here. We want him on our team, and you do want him in your locker room. And you do want him in your organization and in your community. We know that. So anyway.
All right. Speaking of stories, there's a new chapter in the J.R. Smith biography. And it is, I didn't think it could get any crazier for J.R. Smith. I mean, I've seen J.R. since he was like 14 years old, playing with the Players AAU team. I mean, unbelievable talent, like freakish athletically. And obviously we saw what he can be shooting threes. had kind of a crazy up and down career. You know, the crazy coming out of high school, he went pro out of high school, but Carolina, I think he wanted to go to North Carolina and they wouldn't take him. They wouldn't take him out of high school. So he ended up going straight to the NBA. And now the latest with J.R. Smith, and he's been retired for, I don't know, a year or two now, is he has now enrolled at NCA&T, an HBCU school, and he's going to try to make the golf team because you can do that. The NCAA allows you, even though you've been a pro in one sport.
That's right.
To have eligibility in a second sport, which is, again, for all the crap that the NCAA does wrong, at least they got this one right. Like, let him play. Now.
We've all known, you know, we could cite the more prominent examples, Danny Ainge, and of course, what was your summer job? Oh, well, I played for the Blue Jays, you know? Yeah, you know, and then back at BYU beating Notre Dame, you know? I mean, that's what happened. So, anyway, Jay, when I saw it, I became aware of this morning.
Yeah.
And I'm just howling. I mean, but I don't know, you know, I don't know how someone suggested he won't even make the team. I don't know, but I don't have any idea how good he is, but it's fascinating. I mean, hey, go get it. So it's also nice to know you have you don't have to worry about working for a living. You shouldn't anyway. That's right. I would trust that he had a healthy pay scale over the years.
Can I say this, Bob? I just want to see the day. I want to see a photo of J.R. Smith going in a classroom. That's the part I want to see, because I just can't imagine, maybe I'm crazy here, that J.R. Smith with his $1 million, kid that never wanted to go to college in the first place. Now, maybe it's changed. Maybe his whole perspective's changed.
He could. I know. I agree with you. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt that this is a real life, you know, changing, enhancing experience.
Yeah, it'd be cool. It'd be a hell of a story. Listen, if he's playing in some golf event, NCAA golf event, come whenever golf starts for if I'm down there covering like a Duke or Carolina game, you're damn well sure I'm going to go to watch J.R. Smith play golf.
Any columnist in America would say, "Oh my God, that's a piece of cake."
Fun story. Yeah, it's a fun story. I hope it works out for J.R. I've always felt J.R. to me has always been a fun-loving, you know, a little bit out there, but but like you know,
well, he's got 2 rings.
And he has fun doing it all. I mean, honestly, I've always liked talking to JR. So I hope it works out. It's absolutely crazy story. All right, the last thing, and then we'll get out on this. Luka Donic signs a 5-year, $207 million max deal. There's no surprise there. We knew that was going to happen because you can't ever let him walk if you're Mark Cuban. You're going to pay whatever you can to keep Luka in Dallas, keep him as happy as can possibly be. My question to you, I heard somebody say it the other day that he's the best player in the NBA today. Are you willing to go that far?
No, but I will go. I mean, not because I think there's a guy named Durant that I think has to be considered to be the current reigning winner and champion. But, you know, I'm on record. I tweeted something that I regretted because it was a dumb choice of words that in praise in the spring of 20 in the, you know, the bubblicious, time of the day. Yeah. He takes my breath away. I said, I'm a member of the fan club.
Yeah.
No question. Now he's not as good a 3-point shooter as he thinks he is.
Totally.
And I know my friend Tim Kalishaw is always reminding everybody on Around the Horn about that fact, you know, but he can make it, and he has a penchant for making big ones. Ask the Celtics.
Yeah, he's fearless.
Okay. So, but what he's a 7 foot, he's almost Larry Bird. He reminds me of more than any now, but not as good a shooter, quite frankly. But he has Bird. He has Larry Bird vision, Larry Bird feel with the game. So that's the highest praise I can bestow on any. When
you take him today for this year, if I said to you, you can have, you're going to draft for this year. For this year, are you taking Luka or LeBron?
Oh, I'm taking Luka because I want to know. Give me the over under on a number of games you think LeBron will get through without getting hurt. which is no more than 70 maybe at the most.
Are you only taking Kevin Durant? Are you only taking Kevin Durant right now?
I would still take. I think based on what we just saw, he still has enough left. There's no reason to think
defensively too. That's where KD.
Yes.
That's where we don't talk enough about Luka. Is he's got to get to where he's average defensively.
No, that's exactly right. Thank you for me. That was a rather big omission on my part. Yeah. We're talking about offense only here.
Because KD was awful in college defensively and really not good coming into the league, but then he became a really, really good defender. And that's the difference. That's where, to me, KD doesn't get enough credit and is the best player in the world right now because, again, yes, for one game, if LeBron is 100% for one game or one series, I'm still taking LeBron over KD or Luka or everybody. But you've got to put that into context of LeBron. We don't know how healthy he is going to be for an entire season. So you'd roll the dice on KD.
No, I totally agree with you. We're not disrespecting the king. We're just being honest about where he is at this point in his career. And for a game, he can still do stuff. He still has the best all-around game that anybody could play. I don't doubt that. The other guy in the discussion, since you mentioned Luka, is Jokic. I mean, he's a triple-double 7-footer. I mean,
but what he's not is somebody that can create his own shot.
Right.
That's where the difference. KD creates his own shot. LeBron can create his own shot.
He's a 5. I mean, he's a 5, a modern 5. Luka is a queen on the chessboard big. He's
like a 1. I mean, he really is. Just put the ball in his hands, and he can make people. He can score off the, I think you have to be this day and age, to be one of the top players in the NBA, one of the top, if you're starting a team, you got to start it with somebody that you can put the ball in their hands and they can make a play for somebody else and themselves.
Yeah, right. Okay. No,
and that's not really Jokic. He is, but he's not, right? You got to give him the ball kind of in the post. It's different. It's different. He is special. Obviously, winning the MVP, everything about him. I know you love. Everybody, I think, loves. But I would say the argument right now is Luka, KD, and LeBron. And I'm telling you, the argument is gonna include Jayson Tatum in 2 years.
Don't you love the fact that several mountains went to Mohammed to get that contract done? Yeah. Flying to Slovenia, boy. That shows you what
you got to do.
That is so funny. I haven't, so I just love that part.
All right. Well, listen, we will be back next week for another episode of the Ryan and Goodman podcast. Thanks for joining us. You can catch the pod every single week on social media, on Twitter, on YouTube. You can also find it wherever you listen to your pods as well. And